Monday, everybody. My name is Scott Morganroth, the Motor City Madmouth, and we have a unique type of show tonight where we are zoning in on one topic tonight. But this is a really good one, and I am so happy to welcome Mel Farr Jr. to the broadcast, his debut on Pundits Pundit. Welcome to the show, Mel.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys. I really appreciate it. Look forward to a good show.
Good to see you, man.
Good to see you, man. Mel's been with me for a long, long time, and where there's a will and a way to get him on different shows, that's exactly what I'm going to do. So, and by the way, Mel happens to live in the Atlanta area. So, and I know another guy who lives in the Atlantic area with the initials of JC, the pundit himself, Christner. Welcome back.
Hey, Mel, where do you live, by the way?
I live over by Six Flags. I live in Austell.
I used to live in that area, actually. You're near Austell.
Yep.
Yeah, I used to live around that area. I'm in Alpharetta now, Alpharetta Milton.
You moved up?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure.
Don't worry, there'll be a steady dose of Atlanta on the Sports Exchange so that Jacob Christner will be able to talk about what happens on I-75 in the Deep South. But that said, off of I-75 in the Deep North is George Eichhorn, and like Jacob and I and George, we're doing a couple tonight. George?
Yes, so very much looking forward to the show. Welcome you, Mel, and good to see the rest of the cast, of course.
So, and, obviously, your home base is, and my hometown will be the whole thing. For a lot of you people that are looking at the title, reading it right, pressure mounting for Pistons general manager Troy Weaver. But before I get that, we have a sniper out there called Denzel Snipes. You ready to get a part of some Detroit conversation? Or
I may not be on I-75, but I am on I-10. So if Jacob Christner could just turn his car from this way to this way, he can come straight down and come down to my parts, and then
or you go this way to this way.
Either or, But point is, we're all connected somehow. We all get to each other.
Yeah,
we're all
absolutely
easily accessible. If we want a day trip, I could reach George. I could reach Scott. I could reach you too, Mr. Mill. I could reach Jacob. Anybody on this panel, we'll have a great picnic. Let's go.
I know all about I-10. I've taken that route many, many times. In fact, I've taken it from Florida all the way to Arizona. And of course, I've been on that freeway in LA, and it is what it is. So, everybody, let me just give everybody some information. Before I do that, I'll give you some that we're going to be talking all Detroit Pistons tonight. So, if you haven't heard by now, there's a heckler and Troy Weaver got into it. So I want to spend more time on this. But this goes beyond just the Pistons. This could be a situation that applies to any fan base, which is why I'm really keying in on it. So with that said, let me point out that Pundits being broadcast around the world. The audio version of Pundits Pundit can be heard on iHeartRadio, Apple, Spotify, Google, wherever you get your podcasts. Okay, so if you want to be a guest, no problem. Participate in the chat room or send your topic ideas to southfloridatribune@gmail.com. If you want to advertise cost efficiently, give me a call at 954-304-4941. We broadcast live on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube. I'll get to other things in a little bit. So with that said, okay, let's paint the picture. Pistons general manager Troy Weaver has a expletive-laced response to heckling fan in the stands at Little Caesars Arena during the Pistons' 142-124 loss to the Dallas Mavericks. Got to go with my resident Detroiter, George. Obviously, it's tough to lose to the Mavericks, but, and we'll get into more about Weaver. Okay, but let's talk a little bit about the game and all the frustration that's gone there. And I have a few other facts that I want to get into on this.
Yeah, the game was last Saturday, and it was a 7:00 start. Pistons made a great run. The first half was very, very competitive for them. They were right there where they had to be to possibly win that game, but things kind of fell apart in the second half. So the situation was that the fan, was a season ticket holder. I don't know how many years he's been a season ticket holder, but that's beside the point. And he got into it, according to the Associated Press, they were the only ones that saw it and actually reported on it. They said that there were two or three confrontations between this same heckler, this fan, and Troy Weaver. Troy was sitting in the stands. It's not unusual. Scott and I have covered the Pistons for a long, long time. Remember, Scott, we'd see Tom Wilson, the president. He'd be in the stands. And of course, Mr. Davidson, the owner, sat on the floor in one of his seats. But it's not uncommon for team executives to sometimes be in the stands. Joe Dumars, though, did not like to do that. But let's drop that right now. So Troy, Weaver, and the fan got at it, and the fan was escorted away from the seating area by security workers at Little Caesars Arena. And again, Detroit lost that game. So just set some context, 142 to 124 to the Dallas Mavericks.
Okay, so let me add a few other facts to it. And this is going to be a very base, subjective type of broadcast. So I want to make sure people understand. The fans in Detroit saw the Pistons set a single season record of 28 straight losses. If that doesn't make your stomach turn, I don't know what will. Now, Weaver is 71 and 229 in 3+ seasons. And then you think about the fact that you have Dwayne Casey and Monty Williams, who are good coaches, and they didn't take a dumb pill when they came to Detroit. Think about Monty Williams was just recently in the NBA Finals, right? And obviously, and Dwayne Casey won Coach of the Year before he even came there. So he did the best that he could to motivate a team which is not very talented. So, all right, I'm going to lead it off with you, Jacob, okay? And this is one question where I'm not going to tell you to give me the, what do we call it, the Cliff Notes version. Now you have a little freedom to talk about this because that's what you do anyways, and you certainly express your desire. You don't particularly care for fans. But, Jacob, what side are you taking, Weavers or the fan?
I'm not taking the fan. I never will. It's for one thing, yes, they pay the tickets and they pay all this kind of stuff. But this is, I mean, Detroit's got their own problems in their front office. But this fan has no clue what to even look for if he was to get in there tomorrow. He doesn't know what to look for. So this is where my issue with fans is. And Mel, this is your first time you've kind of heard me on this thing from the pundit. I hate fans. I just have to say this part. And part of the reason I can't stand them is because, yeah, they do pay the tickets. Yeah, they get the merchandise, but it goes beyond that. It's like whoever we're at right now, whoever's in the front offices right now, they're the ones that have to deal with this hell every day. Every single day. They're the ones that have to deal with the fight. Are they good at it? It's obvious no. But they're there. They're doing all these hours when these fans can sleep. So screaming and hollering, getting drunk and being stupid is doing no good. And no, I'm never going to enjoy fans because they don't know what they're talking about in the first place.
Okay, that's fair enough. George?
Well, I can't agree with that. Jacob, I know you have strong opinions on this, but the fans are the backbone of the NBA, the NHL, the NFL, Major League Baseball. And yeah, they don't work the team. They don't work the game. Like you said, 24/7, that's up to the team management and the administration, the players, and of course the workers at the arenas. But I will say this, I will never, ever accept that kind of behavior. I'm sorry, from an official of my team. And I'll tell you why. And it's not just because they paid to get in. It's the impression that you're leaving. You're leaving an impression with the home fans especially that you won't take criticism, that you got thick skin. No, you don't. You have thin skin. Okay, Weaver, you did not have. You should have been more in control of the situation by being a professional and by just not even talking to him and just ignore it, or in the least bit say, hey, let's talk offline or something about this. Okay, not at the game right now in front of all these other people that are trying to watch the game. So no, I cannot agree that the fans are always bad. Oh yeah, I know there's a lot of booing and things like that, but there was no business for Weaver to go after this fan and engage him, whereby the fan became more and more irked and did it, spoke up not once but 3 times.
Fair. All right, Mel. So, floor's yours. As long as we can hear you. As long as we can. Go ahead. Now
Okay.
Okay, now it's on.
Now it's on. You good, brother?
All right. So I saw this article last week. I didn't really read it. I didn't pay too much attention to it, but here's my general take on it. Fans are upset, and I get that, but there's always a couple fans that take things to the extreme, especially when they get that liquid courage in them. If now he knows that the fans are upset. We're in the last quarter of this season. I mean, there's what 20, 30 games left or somewhere in that area. And they have been competitive. The Pistons have been competitive, granted. They've lost a lot of close games, but they've lost a lot of games. And he is the single person that is responsible for putting this roster together. So if you do have thin skin, then I would highly suggest you don't mix with the fans. You don't watch the game in the stadium. You watch it from the comfort and luxury of your box, where you don't have to get in that type of confrontation with a fan. Now, fans may be booing, fans may be calling your name out, they may even be pointing at you in the box, but you can't get to them and they can't get to you. So I don't sit here and say that that fans are always wrong. I'm not like Jacob. There are occasions, basketball is one of those unique sports where, because it is a very close environment and they can get very close to the players, where they can actually, say things to the players, and sometimes they say things that are not very pleasant. And I don't think that they should do that. I mean, you're there to be entertained. You pay your ticket to be entertained. Be entertained. When you go to a movie, you don't like the movie, you don't throw your popcorn at the movie, you don't throw your soda pop at the movie. You just leave out the movie and you tell other people it was a bad movie and don't go see it. So if you don't like the product, my thing is with the GM, man, hey, just put a better product out there. You won't have those problems. He's had since 2020, I believe he's been in the job, to put a better product out there. Now they got some young players, but you got to mix in some experienced guys with these young guys. I mean, you got to have a good mix. You just can't have a bunch of young guys out there. I think Monty's coaching his behind off. I think Dwayne Casey probably coached his behind off, did everything he possibly could, but he's just not getting the help. You got to have horses. You can't run the race without horses. You ain't got no horses, it's going to be very, very difficult to win. And you look at what some of the other teams in the league, and you look at what they're doing. I mean, you just look at Cleveland right now. Cleveland's playing very good basketball. For a little while, when LeBron left, they were down, but obviously there was a plan in place that they had, as far as rebuilding that franchise. And look what they've done so far. I mean, they made some big time trades and got some players in there, and they're playing very, very good basketball. That's what they need. They got to bring in some players. You just can't keep all these young guys. You might have to get rid of some of these young guys, a couple of young guys, to get guys a little bit older, a little bit more experienced, and that understand what it takes to win. Number one, what it takes to be a pro, and number two, what it takes to win.
Okay, Denzel.
I'm dead on the fence about that. But as far as Mr. Farr goes, I do agree, is that you do need a bit of a veteran presence up there to put up more wins. I know I am a Rockets fan myself. We had to get a bit of veteran presence in order to put up just a few more wins ourselves. Now, with that being said, I do totally understand that it does begin with the GM, and had the better product been out there, then this is a moot point. But I also will tell you that fans outright can be drunken, animalistic idiots. And let me explain, because I'm going to point to two incidents in the past, okay? Russell Westbrook, Utah, 2018. Jacob, you probably already know where I'm going with that one. Kevin Durant, Dallas, just last month. The Russell Westbrook incident in Utah in 2018, he had racial explicits hurled at him as he was warming up. Kevin Durant, the fan, actually called him a B word as he was running out. When he turned around and confronted the fans wanted to all walk it back. No, I didn't say that. I didn't say this. Here's my point. Fans have gotten to the point where they feel they can say anything they want to these people. Regardless of what Troy is putting out there, he's still a man who's working hard. He's still a man who's doing his job. He's still a man that got to feed his family at the end of the day, whether he succeeds or fails at this job. Maybe next year he's not the Pistons GM no more. He goes somewhere else and he's a success. Maybe he needs to change the scenery. I don't know. It's anyone's guess. The point is, the man is trying the best he can. It may not be to your approval of some of the fans in the stands, and I get it. I understand. I've been a fan of some teams with some horrible front offices. Lord knows, my Houston Texans was one of them. But it still doesn't give an excuse, because he's there trying to enjoy the game like everybody else. And you picked a fight with this man. You don't get a pass. You don't.
Right.
You had a little bit too much in you. You got kicked out. You got what you deserved. Fans think they can say whatever they want to these people, and it's coming back to bite them. I stand on that point right there. Go ahead.
I got this to say too.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, you got to understand where my thing with when I say with fans, you brought it up, Denzel. I mean, what they'll say and they're getting animalistic and stupid. Remember, it's an easy argument with Detroit losing right now. I've got the experience of the last 20 years, the rare times the Bears start winning. And then if it's not the kind of player that they prefer, they pull out the pitchforks and the torches against it. This isn't just, I'm just saying, this isn't just on losing. They the easiest thing right now. They have a great excuse. They're losing right now. They look horrible. They've been competitive, but they can't finish. But that's their excuse right now. Detroit starts getting somewhere, they're going to find that reason because fans find that reason. It's like they want to go 82-0. They want to get all of this. They're going to make their excuses. This is where my issue goes with fans. They don't know what's going on in the first place. And so then they get, and go ahead, Denzel.
Jacob, real quick. You remember when you were doing, we were doing Pundit Views? What was the little game that we put out there where you put them in the position of being the GM, and the point of it was to have them see how it feels to be a GM. A little exercise. We did it about twice.
I had a couple of. I would have a couple of guests on. The way we do it is see what it's like the GM. Oh, and then I would have names, and we'd have all 53 players, like whatever. We put 53 spots. It's like, so where would you do here? Where would you trade there? The show would go longer that way, but it got to the point you got to remember at the end, some people were like, "Ooh, this is tough," because you're also going, "Dude, this is tough," because they also had to go by the cap, and they also had to go by this, and it's like most of them were going, "Ooh, this is tough," and it's like, and guess what? This was just a game. This is just a game. This isn't even an app that we were doing on the Apple or iPhone or the whatever. Or on any of the phones. It wasn't even that. It was just something you would do in real life, and it's just a Cliff Notes version of it.
Mel, is there anything else you want to add? Go ahead, Mel. I want to hear what you got to say.
You're talking about a small minority of the fans. Most fans, just like most people, we get caught up in the bad and what's the bad stuff. Like if you watch the news here in Atlanta, you wouldn't leave your house. Because everything you hear is murder here, murder there. This, somebody gets kidnapping over there. You'd be afraid to lose your house. But you got to understand, when you drive in your car and you're on the highway or you're on the street, and you're driving by folks, you're at the grocery store, you're walking by people that you don't say hello to, and you'll never see them again, probably in life again. Most people that are good, honest, good citizens. They're good people. But the vast majority, 99.some-odd% of folks are good, solid individuals. There's that percentage that just want to be troublemakers, and you're going to have that. You're going to have that at every venue. And basketball, they get liquored up, and they put on their nice little clothes or whatever, and they say, hey, they're with their buddies. Usually they're going to be with somebody. They're not going to do it by themselves. Usually somebody who's by themselves is not going to do something like that. They need some coaxing from their friends and so forth. And then they go ahead and do something that they probably ordinarily wouldn't do if it weren't for that liquid courage. But we're talking about a minority of the fans. And I'm not saying that they're right. They're definitely wrong. And some of the things that they say to the players, has no business. And they should receive a ban. They should never be allowed to go to a sporting event again. If you make the penalty that harsh, maybe they'll think twice about saying something like that. You won't have those kind of issues. These guys are off limits. Say they're working. They're at work. So, I don't come to your job and start, yelling at you and cursing you out, different things of that nature. So don't come to my job doing the same thing. I'm just doing my job. That's all I'm doing. I'm just trying to do my job the best I can. Now, I may only be hitting 40% from the field today and 25% from the three, and my free throw might be a little bit off, but I'm doing the best that I can.
Yeah, well, I'm going to do my job a little bit too. Hello, Joshua Bernstein. He's back again. He follows his fan of the show. Mel Satinsky. Do I need an eye check here or what? Okay, what's up, Mr. Scott?
Is this Satinsky? We're both up good.
I know I need an eye check here. All right, Jesse Stuber, the man. How are you? I'll tell you one thing, Jesse, Josh, two of our most loyal fans. Yes, Mr. Madmouth, you know it. But tomorrow I'll be mild mouth for a little while, but don't worry about it. I'll be back and better than ever next week, or maybe over the weekend when I cover Sebring. All right. That's exactly why I brought this in as a solo topic, because there's no way it would have been able to count as a pundit's point. Thank you, George Eichhorn. Here's the situation, okay? Number one, I agree that I can't stand fans either, okay? But the difference that I have and George has is we get to sit in the press box while they can all kill each other out there for all I care with beer. And I don't mean in a literally downgrading way, but George and I are shielded from it. So say what you want, okay? You know, we're shielded. Every now and then if I have to get a ticket, I do. But I stay as far from as I can. So there's no problem with me social distancing. When I'm buying a ticket, I go a long ways away. But that's very rare because I won't go for the most part unless I'm actually working the game. Item number one. Now, item number two. Let's face the one thing that doesn't help Weaver's case, and I'm not siding with the fan, I'm looking at both sides. Having a 71 win and 229 in 3+ seasons does not help the man's case. Having a 28 game losing streak does not help his case, okay? So I understand the frustration that a lot of them have, only this heckler went a bit too far. Do I have to go back and mention Ron Artest when he got alcohol or drink got dumped on him? So the reality of the situation is this, okay? We know that was a black eye, you know, with the Indiana Pacers and Ron Artest, fan, player, got ugly. We know the malice at the palace is what they call it. So the reality is yeah, you're right, majority of them, but a lot of these guys are still paying good money, though, to show up. It's not like tickets are as cheap now as they were back in the day. So for many of these people, if they're spending anywhere between $100 and $300 to go to an event, you know, how many meals is that outside with their family? You know, I'm just saying, you know, $200-300 from a monetary standpoint goes a lot, you know, is a lot more money now than it used to be. Go ahead, George.
Yeah, and you know, one thing too, I agree with you on that, Scott. You know, the tickets are very, very expensive, especially for the close-in area where this fan is seated. The other thing is that you might remember this fella, Scott. We used to have a heckler at Cobo Arena and the Palace in the Silverdome. His name was Leon the Barber. And Leon the Barber would come to every single Pistons home game. He was a very well-dressed African-American man. He was just a wonderful, wonderful fan. He had season tickets behind the visiting bench. Now, mind you, one of his jobs in his head, and obviously I think it was okay with the Pistons, he would be heckling the visiting coach or the visiting team. Now, was he yelling out swear words or something like that? No. The Pistons condoned. They let it happen. This is a fan that season ticket holder years after year after year with cover the Pistons through some mighty lousy seasons too. But there was a case, and I know I'm comparing different management styles because that was under former owner William Davidson, and now this is Tom Gore's team. That was an area where the Pistons said, "Oh, that's okay. We'll let that fan get season tickets, and he can heckle the crap out of the Knicks, the Bulls, the Lakers, whoever comes to town." I thought I'd point that out because that was something that, like I said, that had gone on for years and years here in Detroit when the team was losing too.
All right, so let me take it a step further, okay? Once upon a time, the media got to sit on the floor all the way behind the benches on both ends, and not in the middle. But you know what they're doing with us now? They're putting us up a lot higher and selling a lot more of those floor seats and getting a lot more money for them. So now it's a different animal. The media is actually going in the press box for, actually, to me, an NBA game, which is difficult as it is. So when you put it all in perspective, things have changed back in the day with Leon the Barber. They really have. And the way I look at it is it really is a type of situation where everything is really, really changed. And these teams are making a lot of money for those floor seats, or many of them. Remember, once upon a time, the media gives you free advertising. Now we just take the breadcrumbs and have to either take it or leave it, or some of us have to sit in the overflow in the media room if there's not enough seats to accommodate us. And see, Denzel and Jacob, that's the one area that, as of yet, in your media careers, you're not familiar with yet. So I'm not holding that against you at all. But George and I have lived through a lot of those times as well. And that's the whole thing where things have changed.
Well,
I
one
have
of the
one.
things.
Oh, go ahead, Jay.
Well, one of the things too, you're correct. We didn't live through that part. You're correct on that. But think about the news of the old day. We'll just say, I'm just going to use the example, 70s. Like think of the news. Walter Cronkite. You got to remember one ad, one ad about 45 seconds to a minute. Back to the news. Then you get about two stories. Back to the ad. My dad in the 80s used to complain, and the 90s, complain ridiculously. So many ads, whatever. No, not necessarily. It wasn't. They were getting more ads, but the idea they're flipping it around. They're flipping it around. That's what they were doing. And the thing, it's a different world now. And you're right. They get more money on that.
Hey, Jesse, I can't answer your question about where Ryan Hoffman is tonight. Sorry about that. And you know what, Jesse? You know what? Anytime we hear from you, it's a blessing. I like this Jesse guy. We got to get him on a show here, one of these shows. Between Joshua, Jesse, and the rest of Joshua's friends, get him on here. Let's get some.
Can we get Jesse's girl on here?
No. What's that?
Can we get Jesse's girl on here?
I don't know. Maybe ask him. I'm staying out of that one. But what I'm not going to stay out of is the fact that our website's www.southfloridatribune.com, Twitter/X @Tribune South. Candy Ebling is behind the scenes producing the show. I have a book out there called Lessons from the Microphone, Tuning into the Enduring Wisdom of Visionary Leaders. Talks about old school media versus new school media. It's available on Kindle, Amazon, and it's now on Barnes & Noble. And we're working on more places to put it. So there you go. Okay, Barnes & Noble, and you have it on Amazon and Kindle. And I talk about a lot of these different stories in the book about dealing with all kinds of individuals. And you can find them in this book, George. Thank you very much for having it on display as well. So I think when you put everything in perspective, Denzel, now you're seeing a different side from my standpoint, and George. And I'm not condoning the action of the fan. Think about it, okay? So James Dolan kicked out Charles Oakley, okay, for criticizing him, and that's a high-profile situation.
That was the enforcer. We've talked to him about him a lot of times on Basketballs. Go ahead.
Right, exactly. So, but meanwhile, but I'm just talking about incidents where people get kicked out of arenas. So this whole thing is out of control. But here's the thing I'll say in closing about Troy Weaver. You find yourself in a hornet's nest of problems. Of all times, you really do need to stay up in the suites is what you need to do. I remember John Hammond and Joe Dumars used to go ahead and hang out in the suites. If you know you're in a situation where you could go out there and stay away from this and it's avoidable, that's what suites are for, right? Team has them. Stay away from it. Make your appearance when they've won at least 20, 30, 40 games instead of luckily trying to get to 20 every year. And at some point, they always like to say, is there light at the end of the tunnel? Well, for the last 10, 12 years, there hasn't been light at the end of the Pistons tunnel at all. They haven't had a playoff win, George? In how many years? A lot, right? I can't remember.
God. Yeah.
It's been a minute.
Tons of years. I think Mel had something to add. Didn't you, Mel? I saw your hand up.
No.
No. I didn't have anything to add to this.
No, that was me. I had one.
Oh, that was okay.
Okay, go ahead, Ben.
Yeah, and Scott, I see what you're talking about. With the whole sweets thing, he wanted to sit in the crowd amongst his people. I get it. Some people feel like, well, I'm gonna go ahead and be amongst the fans, and it'd be a nice treat for them if I'm out there. Most of my point that I shared was getting people, into the, putting themselves in the shoes of somebody who runs the team. That's why I brought up the little exercise that myself and Jacob did, And I'll bring up a prime example, and that is Bill Belichick. Now, go and take a look. Now, mind you, he was the longtime head coach and general manager of the New England Patriots. Now, go take a look at Bill Belichick in 2000, first year with the team. Now, go take a look at him last year. Belichick is about, 72 years old? He looks 82, 83. These are jobs that age you, people, that age you.
Right.
That's hard. That is head coach is one of the hardest jobs in sports. So imagine general manager. Now, anything where you're in a position to run a team, it's hard. It's sleepless nights. You got time away from your family. You got time away from your friends. Yeah, you got a lot of money, but you hardly have time to spend it because you're running the team. That is literally your life. And Scott and George, y'all know better than anybody when it comes to media. Yes, Your job can become you. There's a reason why if Tom Brady gets in trouble today, they're not going to say Patriots quarterback or former Buccaneers quarterback. They're going to say Tom Brady or NFL quarter. You know, your job can become you. And this man is in the same position. His job becomes him. That's why he's not just Troy Weaver. He's general manager.
Well, again, he's in a Hornets set. But I'm going to ask everyone in the panel. I have a feeling Mel will get this question, so I'm going to wait for him to last. Okay. What coach invented the word burnout? Okay. Denzel, I'll start off with you. Well, you'll have one guess.
Burnout. Burnout. That sounds like a Mike Ditka term.
Nope.
But I know it's not him.
Well, it isn't. But okay, is that your guess?
That was my guess.
Yeah, well, sorry, Mel, it didn't get you, but he is still at UCLA times. So, yeah, Dick Vermeil invented the word burnout, won a championship way later. Okay. Yeah. So, yeah, I understand the general manager's got the toughest. Why do you think the guy from Golden State left? Was it, trying to remember?
Bob Myers?
Bob Myers, there you go. He left. And Mike Dunleavy Jr. has the undoubtedly task of trying to turn him around in transition. So Dick Vermeil invented the word burnout, and a lot of coaches have done that. And now burnout is a universal word for all of us that don't want to leave our jobs. So look at Mel. He's turning his head. Come on, Mel.
Denzel, I mean, you're sitting there making excuses. That's a job. This is the profession that he chose. Okay.
It is.
And guess what? He gets compensated very well. There are far more difficult jobs than that job. Okay. Backbreaking jobs, working in a coal mine, not having any kind of benefits, not being able to spend any time with your family, being a construction guy, on a hot day on top, putting a roof on, something like that, digging ditches. There are far worse things that he could be doing. That is not, I don't feel sorry for the guy at all. That's the profession that he chose. Just do your job. Do it well. Do what you're getting paid to do. Stop making excuses for these guys. That's an easy job. You're not working when you're head football coach. You're not working when you're a GM. Okay, you're using your mind. Yeah, you use your mind. It's calculated. Everything is calculated. You're making assumptions based on what you've seen on tape, based on feedback you get from other people. You take a calculated risk. Just be right more than you're wrong.
Well, Mel, one thing I can say with this part is like it is a mind thing. It gets your mind tired more than your physical. You're correct. But yeah, right. And it's like, but here's the thing I say with it too. It's the fact that it's like you listen to someone like Bruce Arians, who has told his coaching staff, "Do not miss your kids' lives or you're fired." Sure, and it's like these people going 18-hour days, 19-hour days. They're putting stress on themselves to be able to do that in the first place. It's like, but you don't have to do it, is what I'm saying. Bruce Arians, look at his thing, and he won ball games. He won Super Bowls.
Yeah, you don't have to do it that way. I mean, you don't have to burn, both ends of candles. I mean, guys coming in there. I think Mike McDonald, he gets in office 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning. He's watching tape. That's just impossible. You just can't do that. I mean, you can't do that forever. It's just not sustainable. You will burn out. If you're at the office a lot more than you're at home, if you're at the office 18, 20 hours a day, you're sleeping 2-3 hours, you can't keep that up. You'll fall out probably before you burn out.
All right, Jesse, wait, hold on one second. I want to thank Jesse for the compliment with my hat. And for anybody that wants any hats, Motor City Madmouth, South Florida Tribune, contact us at southfloridatribune@gmail.com, and Candy will go out there and find a hat for you and just let us know, because I'll tell you what, she does a good job with everything. But when I said I needed a Motor City Madmouth hat, I get compliments I actually go ahead and get compliments out there from news anchors and Tom Herman over at FAU. So sorry, whoever was talking, go ahead. But I had to address my man.
I had one more. Yeah, I just had one more point, Scott. And the frustration level, just briefly on this one, from the fans' perspective, what's happening in Detroit is also a reflection mostly on the owner, Tom Gores. Right. For the most part, he's been an absentee owner since he bought the team from Mrs. Davidson, Bill's widow. And the fans are entirely frustrated. In fact, during that 28-game losing streak, sell the team. They were chanting, sell the team. And so I'm not making an excuse. Again, I'm not for Troy Weaver, but he is the face of the franchise right now. Gores is not there enough to be anywhere near the face. So, of course, Weaver's going to get more praise if they win and more jeers, Bronx cheers if they lose. Again, I'm making no excuse for somebody coming in his face, but all I'm saying is that there's additional pressure on that. And Scott, I'm glad you brought that up about Joe Dumars, because Joe did go to the suite level at the Palace of Auburn Hills, because, they won the one championship, as you guys know, with Joe as general manager, but things were a little rocky after that for many, many years. Joe and John Hammond, as Scott said, they took a seat and they had a real nice suite up there, but you could still see where they were at, but they played it safe. And I'm glad Mel brought that up too, about, the best place for GMs to sit is probably in a suite.
All right.
Joe had some bad draft picks.
Wait, hold on one second. Just to answer your question, Joshua, stay tuned on the Sports Exchange. We will be talking hockey tonight. So after Pundits, Sports Exchange, we'll talk a little bit of hockey. Go ahead.
No, I was saying Joe had some bad draft picks. What was it? Mateen Cleaves, and who was that guy? Rodney, somebody or other, I think it was.
Was it Rodney Rogers?
Darko, and another guy.
Darko,
That's the worst of them all. That set the franchise back right there.
Yeah,
true.
No, the one thing I was going to say, I was to Mel Farr. Hey, as far as hard-working jobs they chose, hey, someone who's literally been deployed through every holiday, I know exactly what you're talking about. The only thing that I'm trying to say is for him to get that kind of treatment at the game, that's just unwarranted. It's just unwarranted for somebody who, is it fair to say that he inherited little to nothing, like from the last guy? So he's already starting behind the 8 ball. Right. And not enough people take that into consideration. It's not like Detroit is coming off of 3-4 straight titles. Of course, this guy's going to have to build. It's almost like, the presidency. If the last guy was doing bad, and I'm not meaning to make it political or anything like that, but sometimes whenever you inherit from the last guy, it makes it a bit harder on you. That's what I kind of see with this. Now, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but that has to get taken into consideration as well. It's like, well, if he wasn't exactly handed roses, and then to George's point, an absentee owner, that's not doing the man any favors neither. He's catching the bullets meant for the owner.
The owner's not making the decisions.
Well, let me say this. The one thing I had no problem with Weaver was he became a very shrewd operator with all those draft choices. That's okay at the beginning, but at some point you got to hit on these guys, okay? Draft capital. He kept trading, and I thought he looked pretty good at the draft, making all these deals. But when none of these players are panning out, then obviously the process drags out longer. And I knew this was a subjective topic, which is why I made it a solo for tonight. And this will set a good example that, folks, we will be having some wide open discussions on single topics for reasons like tonight. But the reality is, at the moment, the only thing that people can judge Troy Weaver on is his record. 71 and 229 and a 28-game losing streak, and the frustration that he was expected to turn around and he didn't. But I knew this was a subjective discussion. Everybody on this show here has had outstanding opinions. They have. I know that. And that's exactly why we're trying to do different things. We could go with our normal 3 topics and a Pundits one, which we're probably not going to get around to tonight anyway, because we're on to something here. We got lava tonight, man. You ever been over at a volcano and stepped on lava? Of course you did. You probably wouldn't walk again, but still, that's another story. But the reality is this: you're judged by your record, and if you don't produce, it's one thing. Otherwise, stay out of harm's way. Ernie Harwell once had a saying called, "If you can't stand the heat, get out of the kitchen." Okay, Troy. So here's the thing: if you can't stand the heat from the fans, go back to the suites. Get out of the kitchen. I can't summarize it any better than that. Jacob, will you at least agree with that?
Yeah, I get that.
We can agree with that, Scott. But as much as I wasn't a fan of Cal McNair, I would never jump the guy at his car or throw drinks at him or anything like that. There's still a certain way that fans have to conduct themselves.
Well, you would, because you're Denzel Snipes. You're Denzel Snipes. Why would Denzel Snipes go after Cal McNair? You're a different breed of animal, boy. It's good.
Well, he could whip Cal McNair
all these other people. Let me tell you, George can tell you right now, a long time ago when the Tigers had a lot of beer thrown at Tiger Stadium, they closed down the bleachers.
Yes, they did. Jim Campbell was the general manager.
Yeah, know that, but yeah, they did that. They shut down.
They closed it down. Yep.
What's that?
He wanted to set that lesson out there to the fans that were unruly. And yes, at Tiger Stadium, Scott's right. Former general manager Jim Campbell made the decision. Close them down.
And they did. So
They did.
there are things now, as we go deeper in this, we have about like another 5-10 minutes before we go to the sports exchange at the top of the hour. But the reality of the situation is this, okay? Teams, now the Pistons may learn from this situation, even though it went viral and you got the internet and everybody's looking at it. Many years ago, you didn't have that compared to what you have now. Social media dragged this thing out to turn it into a topic for us tonight, right? If we didn't have social media, who'd be talking about it, right?
No, absolutely.
Right.
And for the record, Cal McNair doesn't bother me anymore. He finally took a step back and let Nick Casario run a team. All I was just saying is there's still a certain way that fans have to conduct themselves. And just like Mel, alluded to, not everybody can hold their liquor, and not everybody should be drinking at games. We've all seen and heard of incidences where people, get drunk and trash things and start fights and everything, all kinds of incidents, but to go after a team official, kind of going too far. But maybe that's just me.
Well, we all know that, like Jacob will say all day long, fans go too far. I'll say it for you, Jacob, because I don't want this pushing the sports exchange back until 2024 or 2025. We're in
26.
But that's just. But fans, we all know that they could go too far, and whether they get drunk. But there are some of them that are premeditated. Their intent to cause trouble, and if the general manager, to me, is close enough to do it, they'll do it. Now, think of us in the media. George, how many times have you wanted to tell a general manager something, but we had to be very careful about what we said or we'd lose our credentials?
Absolutely.
We have more direct access to them than anybody. So you have to be fair, impartial, and polite. If you get a fan, no holds bar there. This is like a WWE. You're going to stand on the rope and crush somebody, and they don't want nobody to get hurt. This isn't big-time wrestling. This is called big-time business. And unfortunately, the fans are paying the bill anyway. But there's a fine line that you have to go so far until you have to say enough is enough. So if Troy Weaver has any sense at all, Troy, I don't know if you're watching this broadcast, get the heck up in the suite. Remember, Little Caesar Arena, brand new arena. There's plenty of places to watch it. And when your team hits 25, 30 wins and they're feeling better about you, and then Dwayne Casey and Monty Williams don't look stupid by not taking a dumb pill, then you could come out from cover. That's all I have to say on it.
Yeah.
Final word, Denzel. What do you have?
I'm good. This topic right here is it was a whole lot of areas brought to light, and this is a great topic. It really was. Everybody came from great sides of the fence on this one, and I do especially agree with yours on last, Scott. Is as media, you have to pick and choose your battles. Even if you're a beat reporter with a team, and you're not that much of a fan of the team official, the general manager, a coach, or whoever, you have to approach how you do. You have to watch the questions you ask, especially if you're a beat reporter, because that might cost you your job and credibility. So, yes, I totally agree with you on that one, Scott. That's my final word. Okay,
George, final word.
Final word. Hey, listen, I was disgusted as everyone was when Ron Artest went into the stands at the Palace of Auburn Hills. I was equally disgusted by his behavior that I was of the fan who threw the beer and started that melee. And that was a terrible black mark on Detroit sports history. So I don't want to ever see that kind of behavior again. So I'm not condoning what the man did, but I'm also not condoning the way Troy Weaver behaved either. So we don't want any more incidents like we did with Artest and the beer throwing fans. That crap's got to stop forever. And I know the NBA doesn't want that either. That's my last word.
Jacob, final word.
I was embarrassed by Ron Artest's inability to knock down a guy like Turtle from Entourage with a punch. That was I mean, the guy showed he couldn't fight, so it's like that's just stupid to even start one in the first place. But either way, the biggest thing we have right here is internet has brought out stupidity. It has. It's like people are trying. Not only are they trying to yell, scream, and holler, they want to get. They want to be able to get more people on TikTok to watch them and go, I don't, that kind of thing. Or they don't care if they get hates or likes. They get impressions, if you will. They don't care, and that's the problem with that, because that makes things dangerous. And then you could have yourself. We saw that in Mouse of the Palace. Imagine if they had the internet then, truly, and really by itself, men. I'm just gonna say men because it's mostly men doing this. Grow up, seriously, grow up. It's
a lot
like
of women do it. A lot of women do it.
I mean, not in the same level as men. It's like men. I mean, women are, because the main thing is you're right on this thing, but a lot more women grow up faster than men do.
Okay,
They do.
Well, we'll go from one Atlanta guy to the other. We'll take it over to you, Mel. Last word.
On a lighter note, did you see about the fan that's going viral that was at the Golden State game? The fan that charges $900 an hour to go to a sporting event with somebody. She's gotten so popular now she's had to raise her prices to $1,500 an hour.
Wow.
No, I didn't see that one.
Oh, you guys missed that, huh? We're talking about fans.
I like this comment by Joshua. Y'all know more about this stuff than Chat GBT. And
I better.
Okay.
If you don't have a Valentine's Day date, I charge $1,000 an hour. Another $1,200 if we go to dinner. That's what it sounds like to me. But go ahead.
Yeah, pretty much.
Anything else you want to add, Mel? All right. Well, since you don't have anything else to add, Mel, you're at the top. Why don't you let everybody know how they can get a hold of you?
Well, you're talking about adding about as far as about the fans talk, or you're talking about just in general? I know you guys got to go somewhere, but I just want to make a quick point, Scott.
Sure.
And I know you guys talked about it yesterday, but this really bothers me. The running back position is the only position that gets penalized for performance. If you think about it, they're the only position that gets penalized for performance. Now, a guy goes out and has 16 and a half sacks 3 years in a row. Guess what? They aren't saying that he don't have a lot. He don't have a lot of tread left on the tire. Okay, quarterback goes out, throws for 5,000 yards. They aren't saying a couple years in a row. They aren't saying, boy, that tread. He doesn't have a lot of tread left on the tire. Receiver catches 100 and some odd rocks. Almost breaks the record. The receiver almost gets 2,000 yards in receptions. They aren't saying that, oh, he's a little long in the tooth, man. He's losing a step. There's not much tread left in that tire. When they get an opportunity for a second contract, they get more money.
Yeah.
Running back, they go out there, lead the league in rushing, catch 60, 70, 80 balls, or have 1,000 yards rushing, catch 60, 70, 80 balls, and when it's time for them to get paid, they get a pay cut and not a pay increase. You look at what's happening. It's ridiculous. It's the only position. 3 or 4 years ago, Le'Veon Bell sat out because he didn't want to pay. He didn't want to play for the franchise tag, $16 million. 4 or 5 years ago, whenever it was. Franchise tag now is $10 million. Every other team, every other position, even the kicker has gone up. Only position that's gone backwards is the running back. Mike Evans, 30 years old now. He just got a contract, 3 years, something for 20 some odd million, 69 million, I think it is, something like that. So over $20 million a year. He's 30 years old. He's had a few injuries. He hasn't played all the games that he hasn't played every single game with the Buccaneers. You look at Kirk Cousins, God love him, man. I think he's probably made the most money of anybody in the NFL if you go back and tally it up. But God love him. He's coming off an Achilles. He just got 180.
He's 35 years old too.
No, here's the thing. Okay, I'll help you out on this one. When you return next Tuesday to Inside the Pigskin, we will break down the money for Kirk Cousins. How does that sound? Well, we will, I promise. But meanwhile, as we get near the Sports Exchange, Mel, let everybody know how they can get a hold of you.
So you can catch me on all the different social media at Mel Farr Jr. It's all the social media. And I want to let you guys know I'm breaking it here with you guys here first on April 24th, 4/24/24. We're going to have a little charity gala comedy show up in Michigan for the draft, a little pre-draft party up in Michigan at One Mic Stand. And I'll get you guys further information as we get a little bit closer to this.
Well, if you're up in the Metro Detroit area during the draft, you know what? We may be bringing you on the show if our paths cross. I'm working on that now. All right, Denzel Snipes, let everybody know how they can get a hold of you.
All right. So Denzel Sniper 13 on Twitch, Denzel Snipes 13 on YouTube, Denzel Snipes on Facebook. And man, I wish I was a part of that conversation to Mel Farr's point, because they paid Daniel Jones, but they couldn't pay Quan. That's why he's now an Eagle.
There you go. Very good. And go ahead, George.
I got a book out there. Scott and I both have books out there. Detroit Sports Broadcasters on the Air. You'll see a link to the book from Arcadia Press at the end of my column, which appears on the South Florida Tribune, drill down to the Motor City Tribune, and there'll be a link to my book. And also, don't forget, you can reach me at gicorn@yahoo.com and on Twitter at SanGSports99 or on LinkedIn under my name as well. So great to be part of this show tonight, and I appreciate the opportunity to be on.
Okay, Jacob, now you can go the Cliff Notes version, because you had that double
We have to
header.
go,
that we were
yeah.
basically talking about.
Yeah, shows 4 days, sometimes 5 days a week when I'm off the bench for gauntlets. Also, Jake the Pundit on Twitter, X, Jake the Pundit 1 on TikTok, Jake the Pundit on Reddit now, bunch of different places, Twitch, all that stuff, Patreon, working on it. I'm publishing a couple of different things, including South Florida Tribune and Inscriber Magazine and Sideline Sports.
All right, just to give you a preview of next week's Pundit, we're going to have Igor Ganopolsky on our show as our next guest. And what's so great about Igor is he's written 2 books, one on boxing and another one on teenagers. So I know guys like Denzel Snipes and Jacob Christner will salivate when they come on here. And you know what? I got news for you, Mel. If you happen to be by there and you see us on Facebook, you're going to like this guy. Maybe I'll get you on with him one day, because this guy talks about boxing as a workout is what he does. And he talks about the challenges of going out there and dealing with teenagers in a second book, and he's a book consultant for the Tribune. So all I'm going to mention about us at the moment as we close is our website, www.southfloridatribune.com, and my book, which is obviously Lessons from the Microphone, Tuning into the Enduring Wisdom of Visionary Leaders, and is now available on Kindle and Amazon, and it's old school media versus new school news on Barnes and Noble. So with that said, on behalf of Jacob Christner, Mel Farr Jr., Denzel Snipes, and George Eichhorn, my name is Scott Morganroth, the Motor City Madmouth. Thank you for joining us on this edition of Pundit. We'll be back on a regular day next Thursday, but hope you can join us at the top of the hour for the Sports Exchange. Good night, everybody. Great conversation. One topic did it for the whole thing, and I'm glad everybody had a chance to express their opinions, because I think they were in the eyes of Jimmy Walker. They were dynamite, but I'm not going that loud. All right? Good night, everybody. See you next week.
All right.